Every single day, you wake up and begin giving yourself away to your work, your family, your responsibilities, to the endless needs of a world that always seems to want more. And somewhere between the morning alarm and the moment you finally close your eyes at night, you disappear. Not all at once, gradually, quietly, until the person you used to know yourself to be feels like someone you vaguely remember. This is not living, and some part of you already knows that. Welcome to Mindfulness, a space for people who are ready to stop shrinking and start returning to themselves. In this video, we are going to move through 6 profound shifts that Buddhist wisdom teaches us happen when we finally, fully put ourselves first. This is not about selfishness. It is about something far more courageous. The decision to stop treating your own life as an afterthought. 1. You finally stop living someone else's life. There is a quiet suffering that almost no one talks about. It happens slowly, over years. You make a small compromise here, a small sacrifice there. You say yes when you mean no. You shrink yourself in a room so others feel bigger. You choose the path someone else approved of, the career they expected, the relationships they were comfortable with, the version of you that made things easier for everyone else. And then one day you look in the mirror and you don't fully recognize the person looking back at you. Not because something went wrong, but because you spent so long being what others needed, you forgot to ask what you needed. Buddhist philosophy has a teaching about this that most people overlook. It speaks of the self as a lamp. Before you can light the way for others, the flame within you must be steady. A flickering lamp casts confusion, not clarity. And a lamp that has burned out helps no one. When you begin to put yourself first, the first thing that changes is clarity. You start to hear your own voice again, not the voice of your parents' expectations or your partner's preferences or your culture's definition of success. Your voice, the one that has been quietly waiting underneath all that noise. You start to notice what actually energizes you versus what depletes you. You notice which relationships feel mutual and which feel like you are always the one giving. You notice which obligations are genuinely yours and which ones you absorbed out of guilt or fear. This noticing is not selfishness. This is awakening. In Buddhist thought, there is a concept often translated as right understanding. It is the beginning of the entire path. And right understanding always starts with knowing yourself clearly, not the self others have projected onto you, not the self you perform for approval, the self that exists when no one is watching. When you stop living someone else's life, something quietly revolutionary happens. You begin to make choices from a place of genuine values rather than fear of disappointing others. The decisions feel different, lighter, more grounded. Even when they are hard, there is a sense of rightness to them because they come from somewhere real. This is not about becoming selfish or indifferent to others. It is about becoming honest about who you are, what you want, what you can sustainably give. And when you live from that honesty, you stop performing your life and you start actually living it. 2. Your relationships quietly transform. Most people believe that putting others first is what makes them a good partner, a good friend, a good parent, and so they give endlessly. They answer every call, absorb every problem, show up for everyone at the cost of showing up for themselves, and they call it love. But there is something Buddhist wisdom points to gently but clearly. Love that comes from depletion is not the same as love that comes from fullness. When you give from a place of exhaustion, there is often something hidden inside that giving. Resentment, a silent expectation of reciprocity, a quiet desperation to be seen, valued, chosen. And those hidden undercurrents change the quality of everything. When you begin to genuinely put yourself first, your relationships start to shift in ways you did not expect. First, you stop being available for dynamics that were never healthy. You stop tolerating being taken for granted because you have stopped taking yourself for granted. The standards you hold for how you are treated rise, not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. And some people in your life will struggle with that. This is the part no one warns you about. When you start honoring yourself, not everyone will celebrate that. Some people were comfortable with the version of you that asked for nothing. That person was convenient. And when you start having needs, having limits, having a voice, those people may resist. That resistance is information. It tells you whose love was conditional on your smallness. But here is what else happens. The people who truly care about you, they lean in closer. They respect you more. Because there is something naturally compelling about a person who knows their own worth. Authenticity is magnetic. It invites depth. It signals that a real relationship is possible, not just a transaction dressed as connection. Buddhist teachings describe a quality called metta, which is often translated as loving kindness. What is rarely emphasized is that in the original teachings, the practice begins with yourself. You extend loving kindness first to yourself, then outward. Because a heart that is harsh toward itself cannot be truly gentle with another. The love you have not given yourself is the love you cannot fully give away. When you put yourself first, your relationships stop being a place you go to feel worthy. They become a place where two whole people choose each other freely. 3. The anxiety starts to loosen its grip. So much of what people call anxiety is not really about the future. It is about living a life that does not feel like your own. It is the low hum of constant misalignment, the friction of saying things you don't mean, doing things that don't feel right, being someone you are not. That friction lives in the body. It shows up as tightness in the chest, restlessness at night, a vague dread that follows you into rooms and sits beside you uninvited. Most people try to solve anxiety by managing their thoughts. They journal, they breathe, they reframe, and those things can help. But Buddhist wisdom points to something deeper. It says that suffering is often rooted in a fundamental disconnection from the truth of who you are. And one of the deepest truths you can live is this: your needs matter. Your life matters. You matter. When you begin to put yourself first, something in the nervous system starts to settle. Not all at once, not dramatically, but slowly. There is less to maintain. Less performance, less pretending, less forcing yourself into shapes that do not fit you. The anxiety that came from people-pleasing starts to ease because you are no longer running a constant background calculation of what everyone else needs from you. Whether you have done enough, whether you have been good enough, whether you are about to disappoint someone, that calculation is exhausting, and most people do not even realize they are running it until they stop. Buddhist teachings speak of a concept sometimes called non-striving. It is the practice of releasing the constant grasping, the constant effort to control how others see you. When you put yourself first, you naturally begin to release that grasping. You stop needing everyone's approval to feel safe, and that release creates space, real space, the kind you can breathe in. This does not mean your anxiety disappears instantly or that life becomes effortless. It means the anxiety that was manufactured by inauthenticity begins to dissolve. What remains may be simpler, more honest, and far more workable, because you are no longer fighting yourself. 4. You discover what you actually want. Here is something quietly heartbreaking. There are people who have spent decades not knowing what they want, not because they are confused or broken, but because they never gave themselves permission to ask. They were so busy being what others needed that the question of their own desire simply never had room to exist. If this sounds familiar, please hear this. That is not a character flaw. That is what happens when someone learns early that their needs are inconvenient, or that love must be earned through selflessness, or that wanting things for yourself is somehow wrong. These are old lessons, and they are not true. When you begin to put yourself first, genuinely and consistently, one of the most quietly profound changes is this: desire begins to return. Not the frantic, grasping kind, the soft, honest kind, the kind that whispers rather than shouts. What do I actually enjoy? What kind of mornings do I want to have? What does a life that is truly mine look and feel like? Buddhist thought speaks of a deep inner knowing, a clarity that is always present beneath the noise of obligation and expectation. It does not arrive through force, it arrives through stillness. And when you stop filling every moment with other people's priorities, that stillness becomes available to you. You start to reconnect with things you set aside years ago, a creative practice you abandoned, a dream you told yourself was impractical, a version of your day that actually feels like living rather than just managing. These are not trivial things, they are the texture of a meaningful life. And here is what matters most about this. When you know what you want, you stop making decisions by default. You stop drifting into whatever is convenient or whatever avoids conflict. You start choosing. And the act of choosing, of actively authoring your own life, is one of the most powerful things a human being can do. It is the beginning of freedom. 5. Your body begins to heal in ways you cannot fully explain. The body keeps a record of everything. Every time you pushed through exhaustion because you felt you had no right to rest. Every time you held your breath in a room where you did not feel safe to be yourself. Every time you swallowed what you really felt because the moment did not seem like the right one to speak. The body stores all of it, not out of cruelty, but out of loyalty. It holds what the mind refuses to process. This is not metaphor. There is a deep intelligence in the body that responds not just to physical conditions, but to emotional ones. Chronic tension, digestive issues, fatigue that has no clear cause, headaches that arrive on cue before certain interactions. These are not random, they are the body's language, and they are often speaking about a life that has not been honoring itself. Buddhist teachings have long understood what modern understanding is only beginning to confirm. The mind and body are not separate systems. They are one continuous field of experience. And a mind that is constantly in conflict, that is always performing, always managing, always suppressing its own truth, creates conditions in the body that erode its natural balance over time. When you begin to put yourself first, something remarkable happens in the body. The chronic tension that lived in your shoulders, your jaw, your stomach starts to soften. Not because anything dramatic has changed, but because the inner war begins to ease. You are no longer fighting yourself. You are no longer overriding your natural signals. Rest when tired. Speak when moved. Withdraw when overwhelmed. These are not weaknesses. These are the body's wisdom. There is a teaching about this idea of working with nature rather than against it. The tree does not force its leaves to bloom. The river does not fight its own current. And you, when you stop fighting your own needs, begin to move more like water, effortlessly finding the path that is genuinely yours. People who begin honoring themselves often report sleeping better, not because their circumstances changed, but because the internal alertness that kept them vigilant, the kind that comes from always being available, always being needed, always being on, begins to relax. The nervous system starts to trust that it is allowed to rest, that you are safe enough to be soft. Energy returns, not the frantic, caffeinated kind, the quiet, sustainable kind that comes from living in alignment. You start to notice that the activities that once felt draining now feel manageable, and the things that once felt impossible start to feel within reach, because you are no longer carrying the invisible weight of a self that has been chronically neglected. This is not about self-care as an aesthetic. It is not about bath salts and weekend retreats, though rest in any form is welcome. It is about something more fundamental. It is about deciding that your body's signals deserve to be taken seriously, that your tiredness is real, that your limits are real, that you do not have to earn the right to feel well. When you put yourself first, your body stops being a machine you drive and starts being a home you actually live in. And that shift, quiet as it is, changes everything about how you move through the world. 6. You stop waiting for life to begin. There is a way of living that is not quite living. It is a constant state of waiting. Waiting until the children are older. Waiting until work settles down. Waiting until you have enough money, enough time, enough approval, enough certainty. Waiting until you finally feel ready. And the years pass in that waiting, quietly, without announcement. And one day you realize that the life you were saving yourself for has been happening all along, and you were not really in it. This is perhaps the most painful thing that comes from not putting yourself first. Not the exhaustion, not the resentment, not the anxiety. It is the slow accumulation of a life half-lived. A life where your presence was distributed to everyone except yourself. Buddhist wisdom speaks of this with great tenderness. It points to the concept of impermanence, not as something to fear, but as an invitation to wake up now. This moment is the only moment that is real. The future you are waiting for is not guaranteed. The version of you that will finally give yourself permission to live fully, that version does not live in the future. It lives here, in the choices you make today. When you put yourself first, you stop postponing your own life. You stop treating your joy as something to be earned after everything else is handled. You stop living in the margins of your own story. This looks different for everyone. For some people, it is finally saying no to a commitment that was costing them everything. For others, it is starting the creative project they have been putting off for years. For some, it is simply sitting in silence in the morning before the day begins, without a phone, without a task, without performing for anyone. It is reclaiming 5 minutes that belong entirely to you. These small acts of self-honoring are not indulgences. They are acts of deep spiritual courage. Because in a world that profits from your busyness, your anxiety, your constant availability, choosing yourself is a quiet form of resistance. It is saying, my life has value not because of how much I produce or how much I give, but simply because I am here. There is a quality in Buddhist thought sometimes described as beginner's mind. It is the ability to meet each moment as if for the first time, with openness, with curiosity, without the weight of everything that came before. When you put yourself first, you begin to recover this quality, because you are no longer dragging the exhaustion of chronic self-neglect into each new day. You arrive lighter, more present, more genuinely here. And here is what becomes possible in that presence. Real joy. Not the performed kind, not the distracted kind, but the quiet, honest satisfaction of a person who is actually living their own life. The kind of joy that does not need to announce itself, that simply is. You start to notice things you had stopped noticing. The particular quality of morning light, the feeling of a conversation that is genuinely mutual, the way a piece of music can reach something inside you that nothing else can. These are not small things. They are the whole thing. They are what a life is made of. And they were always available to you. You simply had to decide that you were allowed to receive them. Putting yourself first is not the end of your love for others. It is the beginning of a love that is honest, sustainable, and real. Everything you have been searching for, the peace, the clarity, the sense of finally being at home in your own life, it does not begin when circumstances change. It begins the moment you decide that you matter, that your life matters, not someday, now. You do not have to earn that. You never did.